Big Ben Interactive is set to bring a new action RPG for the first time set in the Warhammer Fantasy universe, a hack-and-slash title that allows players to take up roles of Soldier of the Empire, a Dwarf Slayer, a Mage High Elf, or a Hunter like Wood Elf. With plenty of unfriendly creatures such as Nurglings to destroy and gruesome bosses to slay. But how will this game shape up with there already being a plethora of Warhammer games, books and tabletops and more? We take a look at what's known so far about Chaosbane after the release of its first beta. Story and setting. Players will be able to adventure through several well-known places in the Warhammer universe, including the cursed city of Prague and Nuln, known as the Empire's old capital. You will serve Magnus, a soldier who has helped to bring together the warring factions and lead the united front against the Chaos. However, Magnus gets cursed by a sorceress who you will need to track down in order to reverse the effects. While each character has their own well-deserved backstory, which is introduced at the beginning of the game, no matter which character you pick, the main plot remains the same. This was designed so that in co-op the campaign story will not differ, creating a more cohesive gameplay, whether in group or playing solo. Gameplay. Warhammer Chaosbane takes on the first action RPG to be set in the Warhammer Fantasy universe. The layout takes inspiration from the Diablo series, displaying a spherical health meter on the left and an energy meter on the right. In order to regain energy, you use your primary skill to regenerate the meter. Using Q, you can refill your health meter, but this also has a cooldown, so must be used at the right moments. While there are 9 difficulty levels to choose from, normal is the third level from easy. In the beta, the devs had the harder difficulty levels locked. Hopefully each of the more difficult levels will add further challenge for those looking for a tougher and rewarding playthrough. Each quest you take on will reward you with experience and gold, which can be used to purchase items from the vendor. The vendor gives you the options to donate, trade, or access Relic Hunter. This can gain you new useful items. Located in the trio gauge, the top small spherical meter indicates your progression to the next level. As you gain experience, you will fill this meter. Experience also comes from killing enemies, even minion-type creatures will go towards gaining you your next level. A new skill will drop automatically as you level up, introducing them one by one, which makes it easier for players to test out new skills as they acclimate the controls. You will then need to decide which skills you wish to keep active. As you level, you will gain skill points that can be spent in gaining or improving skills. How many skill points needed will depend on the skill type and tier of that skill. There are a few classes to choose from which will alter the type of combat you experience, but ultimately, Warhammer Chaosbane is a hack and slash. If you choose a melee class, combat is up close and personal, while a ranged class such as Mage or Wood Elf will create distance between yourself and the enemy. But each class has its own archetype ability, which adds a different feel to your usual RPG gameplay. Environments also aren't just there to look gruesome, they also act as cover in fights. As you keep fighting, these elements might get destroyed in the process, keeping the battles rather active so you're not just fighting in one spot all the time. Bosses like the Great Unclean also have AoE attacks, such as spikes that come up from the ground, so being on your guard and watching your surroundings will be key. This will be especially fun playing in co-op, as you'll need to work with your team players to come up with strategies that take advantage of your abilities. As you level up, you gain new skills. These can be used as long as you have resources to spend. For example, the soldier will use energy as his main resource. You can also upgrade these skills by spending more skill points, which each roughly have 3 tiers. You can activate new abilities as they become available as long as you don't exceed the maximum skill points available. It is also possible to swap skills around to suit different missions, making the system rather flexible, being able to mend these at any time with no cost. But there are also further abilities that you draw from the gods. The god skill tree offers a wide variety of abilities that are purchased by loot-coloured fragments, which are gained from enemy kills. These have a combination of active and passive skills that can enhance your gameplay. The skill tree is mapped out in the shape of a Sigma's comet. The system reminds me a lot of the previous World of Warcraft skill trees in the Legion expansion, or the likes of the expansive Sultan Sanctuary skill tree, which will require you to unlock previous nodes before unlocking others further down the line. But don't think you'll be spamming these skills, as they have longer cooldowns than regular skills, means you'll have to use them wisely. By having a second skill tree, you could really come up with some more specific builds, gaining more flexibility in playstyles when it comes to the 4 classes available. This skill only unlocks after level 15 upon completing a quest. During the initial beta that took place in March, players got to experience 2 of the 4 classes, Conrad the Soldier and Alontir the Mage. But they also released a trailer focusing on Braggy X-Biter, the axe-wielding dwarf, showing a preview of his skills. You can gain archetype abilities which will unlock early on in the game. These are fixed abilities that add directional control. They are also dependent on the character you pick. This ability has a cooldown and it will need to regenerate its resources. High Elf. One of the most interesting magical abilities for the High Elf class is its archetype ability. When casting a fireball called Aetheric Orb, the last orb cast can be redirected using the spacebar and using the cursor to aim at a target. The fireball will then change paths, making the ability very reactive to different combat situations and quite deadly if used in combination with another ability. Mages can be built to suit your preference, whether you want to go for fire to wield fireballs at your enemies or for a different elemental focus. Soldier of the Empire. Conrad Volland the Soldier acts as a melee class and his own archetype ability called Counterattack, which acts as a bash. This will knock enemies flying, dealing damage as well as create space between you and your target. This ability will need to regenerate over time once used, and for the soldier it comes in the form of shield charge. Wood Elf. This woodland elf appears to be a kind of hunter class, using a bow as the main weapon and can use additional traps to stagger enemies. Not much else has been revealed about this class at this stage, as this wasn't an option in the recent beta. Dwarf. While small in stature, he's not to be underestimated, especially when powered by his bloodlust, which sends out spinning axes in all directions. A more up-close fighter, he has a great deal of mobility when he unleashes his bloodlust, while not much else is known about his skills at this point, only from what has been shown in his character trailer. This looks like a fun class to try. Of course, you'll be faced with big bad bosses, but there are a host of smaller enemies to face. These include Nurgle's minions, Nurglings, who like to swarm unsuspecting adventurers who cross their path. One boss unveiled so far is the Great Unclean. Yes, it's just as pleasant as it sounds. While not being a mobile boss, he spends his time in his own filth and uses projectile vomiting as one of his attacks. Lovely. He also likes to send out directional shockwaves and call upon his minions to do the dirty work. As expected with an action RPG, loot plays its role in gaining new gear, which adds its own traits to add to the mix. These can add to the core attributes in the areas of attack, defense, which covers things such as health regeneration, as well as utility, which includes counterattack or even cooldown recovery. So far there doesn't seem to be rarity levels, which is seen in the likes of action RPGs such as Last Epoch or even Path of Exile. For items shown in the beta, this isn't present, but maybe this is something they could add in later. Loot systems play an important role in this kind of game, as it has to be organised in such a way that players can locate newer items looted, which is something Chaos has adopted already, but having further ways to organise items would be appreciated, especially when you're dealing with tons of loot. Audio and visuals. There is great attention to detail when it comes to environments in its isometric view. Everything looks well designed, reflecting the medieval feel of the game. You can loot items from barrels by destroying them, which gives a rewarding feeling. Even when you strike down an enemy, they're flung backwards in a ragdoll motion, making your skills very satisfying to watch. However, what makes it feel like a Warhammer game is the use of its dark and, at times, gruesome elements from backgrounds to monsters you'll encounter. What's interesting for this game is there is a different layout depending on if you're using a keyboard and mouse setup or gamepad on PC. Playing with a gamepad will offer a different layout that is a little more compact, more optimized for scrolling through menus using gamepad controls, which is a nice touch. Final thoughts. I appreciate the fact that Big Ben has included the God Skill tree, as this will provide players with more specifics when it comes to playstyle. It will be up to you if you want to gain some more passives to boost your core skills, or gain new ones that deal great damage but have the offset of longer cooldowns. While most games may require you to spend some earned gold to change current skill setup, in Warhammer Chaosbane, changing at any time without penalty has its good and bad. On one side, this means flexibility at a moment's notice for different fights, while the downside is that it could reduce playability of each class when respeccing, has no cost. Hopefully, the God Skill tree makes enough of a difference to provide future playthroughs for players, as it adds more customizable options. In terms of UI, hopefully Chaosbane will give players options in how they view the masses of loot they will gain while playing. Currently the gamepad view seems to offer a better at a glance view to compare items in list form, but this might be down to player preference. I'm hoping each of the other classes will be equally thrilling as the two that have been shown in the beta, giving a good balance of skills that will work in both single player and co-op. Warhammer Chaosbane releases on June 5th on PlayStation 4, Xbox One and PC. Its next beta is available for those who pre-order and will be in April.